Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm delighted to be here representing MRSI as an MC member today. The Market Research Society of India is an autonomous not for profit organization. We were established in 1988 and are committed to driving excellence and professional standards in the market research and insights industry in India. Also want to thank SMR, the Global Association, for creating this very unique platform to help us celebrate our own very day, the International Market Research Day, or as we proudly call it, the IMRD. The theme for IMRD 2026 is Celebrate Research. This day is a global moment to recognize the value, the impact, and the people behind market research and insights. It highlights how research drives informed decisions, fuels innovation, and creates a positive impact on society. It also brings together all the global insights community to celebrate achievements, share knowledge, and inspire the future of our profession. And with that, it is now my pleasure to hand over to Anjana to take forward today's topic and introduce the same too. Anjana is, of course, a very, very esteemed colleague in research, but more than anything, she's a very, very dear friend. She's a partner at Quantum Consumer Solutions. She brings over 2 decades of experience in human insights and strategy across key categories, FMCG, technology, e-commerce, and I'm quite confident a lot more. So over to you, Anjana.
Thanks so much, Anila. Thanks everyone for joining in. The topic for us today is research and insights in startups, a radical new playbook, right? And why are we talking about startups? Because I think they operate under the highest pressure, limited time, limited resources. Now, what could be a better way to pressure test the role of insight and research today, right? Especially when we're debating some fundamental tensions today more than ever before. So whether it's AI versus human judgment, depth versus speed, data versus lived reality, the question really is, where does real consumer understanding come from today, right? And what can startups teach us about getting this right? So that's what we're here to unpack. And we have a fantastic mix of perspectives on this panel. It gives me great joy to introduce them to you. We start with Aditya Sharan. Aditya heads the CMI function at Honasa Consumer Limited. Whether it's innovation, brand positioning, or trend spotting, his goal is to bridge the gap between consumer behavior and business growth. With 12 plus years of experience across Unilever, Dabur, and Honasa, he has actually helped brands in India, Southeast Asia, and Europe navigate shifting market landscapes using digital-first consumer-centric approaches. Welcome, Aditya. We also have Tamanna Dhamija here. She's the CEO and co-founder of Convosight. Tamanna transitioned from a successful career in investment management in New York City to building a data-led entrepreneurial journey. She founded Convosight as an insights-first platform focused on decoding real consumer behavior within digital spaces. Thanks for joining us today, Tamanna. We have Sandeep Budhiraja. He's one of the founders and director and promoter at Sprintstudio.ai. He works at the intersection of human insight and business instinct to shape smarter outcomes. Welcome, Sandeep. We have Jeet Thakur. He is a consumer insights leader with 11 years of diverse experience, starting as a management consultant and later in CMI at Unilever, where he actually worked across some of India's leading brands for 6 years. He's now building the CMI function at Atomberg, embedding consumer thinking at the heart of product innovation and business strategy. He likes to call himself a struggling stand-up comedian. Welcome, Jeet. We have Shaveta Bhardwaj here, who's the co-founder and CEO at Sprintstudio.ai. She has 26 years of experience in research. She brings in the passion to bet high and scale up businesses. Today, she's passionately building a future state research platform that can connect brands and consumers on the go. She has built new frameworks for organizations that enable action. Her mantra is challenge the status quo. Thanks for making the time, Shweta. All right, so let's get started without any further ado. My first question to all of you in no particular order is, what is that one shift in how we understand consumers today that's actually genuinely contributed to improving decision making? Anyone can go first. Okay, we can go with you, Shaveta.
Okay. So this is what I'm really betting on actually while building Sprint Studio. Uh, the big one is shifting from episodic interactions with consumers to continuous interactions, right? We're bringing in, things like micro communities where you actually can connect with consumers not in just one way, right? It could be, it could be a conversation one day, it could be a conversational chat on another day, it could be connecting images, videos, etc., all in a continuous iterative manner. And that for me is a big shift where you actually pivoting from, say, an interview mode to a conversation mode with consumers, where you're moving from, say, a transaction mode with the consumer where you inviting them as a one-way interaction to actually opening up a two-way interaction with consumers. And that's where I feel that insights actually would really lie. And that's what I am kind of looking as the new playbook to go with.
Got it. So how does it improve decision making?
So very simple. It actually moves you from. Okay, let me give you an analogy, right? I mean, one of the big issue that we've been wanting to solve as research industry is sameness of insights. Fresh insights nahi hai, right? I mean, we hear it so many times, correct? Now, when you meet a person once, right, you get to certain insights. When you meet a person multiple times, you actually see that the consumer is dropping their guards, the vulnerable moments are coming up, and that gets you to the spaces where brands are wanting to unlock insights, unlock context, unlock many other spaces, right? But the most beautiful way in micro communities that can help decision making is where the consumer moves from telling you what they're all about to co-creating with you. And that's where brands can actually move the decision making into a far more sharper spaces, which is
Understood.
coming directly from consumers. Yeah.
Thank you, Shaveta. Aditya, you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I personally feel that the biggest shift that has happened uh, in recent times with the digital revolution in India, so many people having smartphones, access to content, is that earlier it used to be that insight had to be mass, at least have a certain scale before you had to take a decision on it. Now it is not so, right? There are categories which are less than 1% or 2% penetration, which are growing very fast, and a lot of companies are making 100 crore brands on based on those. So I think the biggest thing that has happened is that data is everywhere. You can act on it based on the size you want to go after, and it becomes it is a powerful thing for very small spaces you want to enter. It's also very liberating in a way, because you can start small with a very small insight. You can easily multiply because you have. It's not just that the primary research which we usually call speaking to consumers is the only data point available to you. There are so many other signals available which you can act on, and you can create categories and brands out of it. So
So can you give me an
that is.
example of, sorry, Aditya, sorry to interrupt, but can you give us an example of a real life decision or an outcome that
Mhm.
you've influenced basis this?
So I can tell you many examples from the industry recently, which were all viral. Some of them were fads, but some of them continued. For example, there is, I won't name a brand, but yeah, there are brands of soap which are solving for detan as a problem in our country. Now, detan as a like tanning as a problem in our country is supposedly a very big opportunity, and it's been there since ages. It's in our DNA that we have a high melanin skin tone, and hence we will definitely tan. But they took a very small, took a very small bet on a small change they wanted to do on the proposition on how you speak to consumers about it, and that became an innovation. Just the name itself basically made you strikingly different from other people, and then people started noticing, oh fine, okay, this is something new. And then the need state came, and then that so we keep doing in-house sessions with other founders, and recently we had Akash from Velavita on a in-house session with Varun. He mentioned, and I found it very intriguing. He said that only 3% change can also qualify it as innovation. If you look at Bella Vita, it's not that before them there was no pack of four perfume packs, but they did something different, like probably very minutely different, but it was noticed by consumer. Which is where I'm saying that data is available everywhere. You can build categories on very small insights and be very sharp focused and reach a certain scale, which is
But what
something which
gives
is
you the, sorry, but what gives you the conviction to act on those small insights?
your risk appetite. You if you think of a brand which is at zero, you have a chance of going to a 0 to 1 with this same small insight. And for you, it's a big thing, right? But for a large brand, that will not be a very big like space, and hence they will probably just leave it out, saying that no, it's
Understand.
very small for us. They'll go for the bigger bits. And we've all come from larger organizations where we see this happening, which
Got
is
it.
where like smaller spaces are built more efficiently using these very small data signals. And it's something which I feel is a very recent trend. In the last 10 years, you have signals coming from all possible directions, and anyone can just use that one insight, which may not be a very sizable one, right, in terms of the number of people it affects, but you can still make it like a sizable brand using that one very sharp insight. So that's
Understood.
something
Yeah,
I
I get
feel,
it.
and there are people in this forum. I see BLDC as one of the examples, and probably Jeet can talk about it. Very similar. The
Yeah.
tech has been there, but no, it affected a. It was a very sharp insight gone made big. But I'll let him complete on that point maybe.
Yeah, let me bring Tamanna at this point in time. She's been waiting a long while to speak. So, Tamanna, tell us what do you think is the big shift that's happening in terms of understanding consumers that's genuinely contributed to decision making?
Yeah, so I'll add on to Aditya's point. Aditya said data is everywhere. Well, consumers are everywhere, and they're hanging out online now more than ever. Uh, when we look at data of the digitally penetrated sort of population across countries, right? It's anywhere 80 to 100%. It's insane, and we're all a part of it, right? 5 to 6 hours is what an average person spends online every day. 80% of that is on social.
Yeah.
Uh, and while they're on social, 82% of content on social is video. I know I'm throwing lots of numbers, but that's just the reality. Even on a platform like Reddit, which was meant to just chat, text, 50% is non-text content. So the big overarching point is that consumer behavior has changed so much, which has really enabled always on access to consumer information, unprompted, unbiased. They're telling us what they want. They're performing in front of us, right? In videos. There's like trillions. Like TikTok alone has what, 6 trillion posts monthly. So there's insane amount of consumer interaction happening right in front of us. Can we tap into it is the bigger question, right? And that's one of the things that we're trying to solve. And on this question of how does that go, okay, they're there, and what if you're able to pull insight, but how does it land to faster decision? I think the ability to access it, and just access that like in minutes. We do. I was talking to Aditya before this panel. We partner deeply with Mama Earth, and I was telling him, the team has asked like 350 questions in last month on one of our tools, where you can literally just ask a question. Hey, tell me, like, what were the top 500 reels on this trend, or what did this competitor do? And he was like, oh, even I didn't know. Like, that's how much. That's the power of getting access to consumers in their natural habitats. They're
So
all
let
around
me
us.
interrupt you here, Tamanna, and I'll pick on a word that you used. I mean, you said consumers are performing for us, right? So tell me, does it really help us understand the real, unfiltered uh, behavior? Because if it's a performance, then how do we get to the depth of what they're truly feeling versus what they're saying?
Yeah, it's a very good point, Anjana. I'll take an example, right? And what do I mean by performing? What I mean by performing is, if you see a video of a skincare video, right? you will see how the person is applying the product. You will see the emotions on the face. You will see what else was there in the surrounding, which is not being spoken about or being written in caption,
Right.
right? So, one, just to decode what performance means is there's so many aspects. Like a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is 1,000 frames. There's just so much deeper context. That's one. Second, when you triangulate all the information,
Yeah.
so not just the videos but comments, and when you triangulate all of these interactions is when you're like,
And
oh my god, like you're capturing consumer voice, creator voice, influencer voice, competitor voice, and just tying it all together. It's fascinating to see, the difference between just like interviewing and asking a question versus just like watching them and looking at that data at scale.
got
um,
it. So what you're saying is there is human judgment that comes in to make meaning of what they're putting out there, right? And that's what makes the difference.
yeah, I mean, there's tech now, there's tech and
Yes.
AI, right?
Yes.
Everything can be decoded, like what to extract from a skincare video versus a lab care video. Or yeah, there's tech, but yes, it's all of this, and that's the power of AI. I know this panel is not about AI, but that's
Yeah.
also where AI comes in.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jeet. Let's hear from you. What do you have to say on this?
Thanks, Anjana. So I'd just like to add to the point on how the consumer landscape is changing completely, right? And I think that is also dependent on how not only how people are consuming content, but also the way they are shopping as well. And what is interestingly happening is the available touch points for us as brands uh, for to be able to access that information is changing drastically. So, as D2C brands are growing further, there's a lot of first-party data available to actually reach out to them to, to understand firsthand, what is the experience like post-purchase, which is super critical, especially for, new launches or if you're trying to find a trend or if you're trying to find any new tech feedback. At the same time, and this is something that we can do as companies, right? But at the same time, what is also happening is that the larger organizations are now becoming, more data centric in order to provide insights. So Amazon is actually, they revised their Amazon Pie, which is a super interesting platform for understanding. You get a lot of trends. You understand what the market is shaping up like. You understand what the consumer wants. What is the share like as well. So there are tweaks and things that you can do to find out your market share in different categories. And Facebook with similar platforms, Seller Central. At the same time, for Facebook, it's Meta Ads Library because a lot of users are now, consuming, as Tamanna mentioned, a lot of content throughout the day. So, what are we doing to leverage or rather understand what brands are talking about? What are those communications which are driving higher impressions? So I think the touch points that we interacted with probably 3 to 5 years back, that those have changed drastically with the way people are now shopping and the way they are consuming content as well.
Yeah. Got it. So you started off at Unilever. Sorry, you started off as a management consultant, then you moved to Unilever, and now you're setting up your CMI function from scratch at Atomberg, right? So I'm very curious to know what are some of the early choices that you made while starting this function that truly paid off for you?
Yeah. So, as ironic as it sounds, the first thing to do for myself was to set my own expectations,
Yeah.
and that is when it comes to the processes. Coming from an org like Unilever, which is so streamlined when it comes to its processes,
Yes.
to a place where you have to set them up. So there is no precursor or there is no prerequisite on what is the standard methodology, what is the standard cost for it, who should we go for, what would be the ideal way to do any research. So everything needs to be set from scratch. And at the same time, the bigger challenge was change management. So not
Yeah.
only educating the stakeholders and the leadership, but also ensuring that whatever I'm trying to communicate is not just my point of view. It is coming from a consumer voice, and that's what I'm representing. Is I'm representing the voice of the consumer, and for that, what literally helped me was, and this is I'm thankful for the leadership as well.
Yes.
Whereas they went, so they joined me in a lot of research, and we actually listened to consumers firsthand in their homes, saw how they're using our products, interacting with our products, see what were the pain points, to see what is the jugaad that they are doing as well. So all of those things, because they could witness it firsthand, they could actually understand the impact that CMI or an insights function can bring to the org that is already growing without it. So
Yes.
that was some of the early challenges, and I think those things also I learned on the job. I did not have in mind. I think this is how we'll do it, but I learned that change management is going to be a sort of a rough path. So I need to
Great.
add more proof for it.
Interesting. And you went back to the basics for it, right? You said consumer centricity, go watch them, observe them, and that's how you decided to bring in change. That's
Absolutely,
interesting.
and that has not changed even now. I think even
Yes.
the leadership, the CXO, also ensures that they travel along with us at least 4 to 5 times a month. So that has definitely helped.
That's great to hear. Sandeep, we are eager to listen to your views on this. What do you have to say on big consumer shifts and how decision making is happening today?
So one of the shifts which is very big is that there's a lot of data. So
Yes.
while there is an advantage of having so many videos and so many things, data points and all, but somebody needs to make sense of it, and
Yes.
it is becoming increasingly complicated. Which data should I base on?
Yes.
And you had asked Tamanna that there is human beings. Not always are human beings involved in triangulation of data. And we were discussing today with somebody about a platform which, if you put all your brand data, market share data, it will give you what your challenges are. It will give you a strategy, but there is nobody who's looking at that strategy.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of data, plus something which has changed about human beings and why you can't always depend on them is that if you see WhatsApp, there are lots of people creating news. People create what you call a sunshine cage things, and people want to be journalists. People want to tell what is happening. So you have to filter that out. On a very positive side, uh, even a small 100 crore, 200 crore startup doesn't really need to hire a research agency, doesn't need to go to a Quantum or Ipsos or Kantar. They can do a lot of things by themselves. So you can sit in India and do work in Indonesia, work in UK, sitting here, which previously you had to go to Ipsos or Kantar or what, and then ask them Nielsen to do those things. So today it's become easier, and the owner or the owner promoter can run some of it if he has the time. So it's a lot of people are using insights, and insights are being used more. What Whether they make sense or not, I don't know.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, data is everywhere, but has the value of insight, what's happened to the value of insight in today's times?
Look, insights. Uh, no offense meant for everyone who was here. Was always a staff function. Very rarely does it have a seat on the table. So despite Nitesh yesterday making a point of trying to get a seat on table, not always does it have a seat on table. So yes, insights is very critical, because in today's world where there is be so much data, only an insight person or an experienced insight person can make sense of it.
Yes.
So more boutique agencies, more people who can make sense of your data and who can give advisory. But
Yeah.
yes, whether it will get a seat on a table, I don't know.
Understood. Understood. So my next question is really on the playbook itself. Now, if you're saying that the playbook is changing and changing fast, give me practical examples of what does it actually look like today, right? I mean, how would you say is the playbook changing in real life?
Is that for me?
Anybody can answer.
So I'd like to go this way.
Yes.
I think if I were to ask, to any one of you guys, right? If considering 3 years back or 5 years back, if you're watching content online, how many times did you feel the urge to shop something, while scrolling,
Yes.
versus now? So that habit has changed drastically, and that is going to just increase with time. More and more D2C brands are going to grow. The brands, not just D2C, the brands which are online are going to grow as well, right? And I think that is a reflection of how we were trying to understand the consumer, probably 5 years down the line, like 5 years earlier. I don't think it was a part of our playbook at all. But now with the the online landscape, with the way they are consuming content and the integration of content into shopping behavior. I think that is where we need to understand, what are those triggers that would actually drive, top funnel versus what would drive mid to bottom funnel as well, especially for brands that are so digital savvy and who are focused on, growth through digital, especially which are metro or, more higher pop strata driven. That is going to be a critical part of our playbook going forward as well in the next 2-3 years as well.
Got it. Got it. So you're saying the whole cycle from discovery to purchase has really become much shorter, right?
Absolutely.
And the way people are discovering and making purchases has shifted, and there are huge opportunities there for us.
Yeah.
Aditya, I think you had your
Yeah.
hand up. Yeah.
Uh, yes, I would second Jeet's point, but I'll also say that it's not just that the funnel has become shorter. The funnel is diversifying into so many things, right? Like if you look at, well, if I look at my own portfolio, in the organizations I've worked before, there was one channel where all my sales basically over indexed, and everything in my innovation process, in my research process, was designed to deliver to that particular channel. Now, because I have access and I sell heavily on online, on my D2C, on different platforms in quick commerce, it
Yes.
becomes so much easier to launch things faster. Now, because I know that it's very easy to get to market faster, it also pushes me as consumer insights to do research faster. I can't go and basically tell someone that no, you're going to launch tomorrow, but I'll take 2 years to do the research. That is not something that we do at all. And hence, one thing which has definitely changed for us first was that we'll try and find ways in which we can do faster research and at a lower cost, because budgets are obviously a constraint. And the second thing was also that we'll not do like 100%, because a lot of the validation can also come in market. If you look at this one insight from Bases, for the longest time has been that only 1% of innovations, or some less than 10% of innovation, actually succeed in market. So if and that pipeline is usually at least 1 year or more than 6 months to 1 year or so. If after 6 to 1 year of research, and innovation is not able to perform in market, why spend that much time? So our playbook is then very simple. We go for the maximum possible consumer validation and exploration before going to market, but we don't stop it there. We continue research once we are in market. Through content, you have different metrics you look at. On platform, you have different metrics to look at, and that also is research. I mean, it may not come under my purview, but it's happening through another team, and that's totally fine. But it doesn't stop there. So we, like, it's a rule then that no, we don't go with 100% answer. We go with directional validation, or maybe a 60% before launching, and then the rest 40% will prove itself in market. A lot of times, an average product to launch may perform supremely well because of execution, and that's what brands like ours also aim to do. Because a lot of the spaces in India currently are very small. You need to find people who are like having full conviction to buy something like that, and may not always be like a smooth path out there. If you're building for those spaces, your ability to not just research 100% but also execute 100% becomes very important, and
Got
that's
it.
something which most brands in this space are, I think, trying to do.
Understood. So, Shweta, I mean, I have a specific question for you on AI particularly. What would you say is the one use of AI that's already delivering great value today?
So, data organization, for example, right? The very fact that data sat in PowerPoints, they sat in folders, they were organized manually, unstructured data, is a space that has been totally trumped, right? In ways that you can only make it better as you go along, right? Um, we don't need manual processing anymore. I've been working on this technology for the last 2.5 years. And from when first I started, I almost thought ki it won't get to a level where we need the pristineness and the depth that research really looks for. But if you really study across industries, one of the things that is coming into play is one, creating you putting AI into a very purpose-led workflows that allows enterprises at large to actually transform. That's point number one. Point number two is AI in itself is changing like so rapidly that today language flexibilities, right? So for example, when we work with clients who are talking to the Bihar and the UP, why should consumer transcripts be read in English? Today, AI makes it possible to have it in Hindi. You need to really read it in Hindi to actually deliver those insights, right? So language flexibility comes in, speed comes in, pattern acceleration. I'm not saying pattern identification. Of course, human brings in the pattern identification equally, but what AI does to you is pattern acceleration for sure. So you have starting points from where you can start looking at the patterns. Another thing that AI brings in very, very vividly, especially when you're looking at a lot of data, um, is the human bias can be put in check when you look at human bias. So it's not the last set of data I read or the bias I carry. Gen Z is my very favorite example. We all say Gen Z is X, Gen Z is Y, but is it really coming across when you're reading them? So AI can be dispassionate about keeping some of those biases in check. But my favorite going in future is actually AI being able to bring our two practices, which is quantitative and qualitative, at the cusp to bring stories at scale, right? Here I'm really talking about AI moderator, which is just coming about, which
Yeah.
can actually lead to a lady who is wrapping up her kitchen and is free at 11:30 to give you her perspective, where AI can actually take that perspective. And I've seen that in action, where people come at 12 o'clock at night and say that, hey, is the contest still open? Can I share my view? And they want to at 12 o'clock at night. And they might not give you one, but two. And the enthusiasm and the engagement of a consumer at that point in time is where I say is the big win for research, because that's what you need for inciting. So that's where my bet is.
Understood. What are the big gaps that you see? What
In
is
AI,
AI still not able to do convincingly or well enough?
see, AI can do the what? Okay, there are hallucinations. You need to know your data to read AI outputs. Okay,
Yes.
at no point you should do a copy paste. AI can be very, very pleasing to you. Okay, AI needs to be in check. AI needs an experimentation. AI needs a lot of testing, Anjana. Okay, so it
Got it.
cannot be you've put in data and you pulled the data out. No, that's not where it is. It can at best be your assistant. It can at best organize a lot of data for you so that you can make sense out of it, but you need to know your data. So AI won't get there. The so what and what next is still with us, right? It is
Understood.
the interpretation that will really be the most important thing that we add value on, because AI is just saving time for us to organize that data, culling out insights to a particular level. Uske aage, beyond that, you have to take it forward. That's where I
Got
would
it.
be.
Got it. Super clear. Thank you. Sandeep, I have a very specific question for you. I know you have your hand raised, but I'm going to pose my question on you. You look at sensory experience and sensory research, right? So what's your take on that in a world that's supremely dominated by digital signals? Is there something that sensory experience and sensory research comes in to provide like a unique perspective or a shift in imagination? Where do you see it?
One, we don't only look at sensory experience, we look at user experience. So we do
Yes.
go beyond just sensory experience.
Yes.
What is going to happen, and while it has been prophesied for quite some time, attention spans are getting lesser and lesser. So I
Yes.
can see at least two of us who have been on the phones while attending this webinars, including me. So attention spans are getting lesser and lesser. You don't consume media. 30 seconder is dead. You don't get across to somebody in 30 seconder. So if your product experience when you're launching into a heavily populated category would not be differentiated, if you do not get somebody to say, Mama Earth, I tried and it was really, really something to talk about. If you don't create that user experience, if you don't leave that product, and it also is it's not only about just once, it has to be consistent, because with a lot of startups the issue is we can deliver well, but when I get my second factory, when I get my third factory, is my production consistent? So is my product experience still the same where I'm rolling out the second and third factory? So yes, user experience and product experience will actually become bigger than the brand in terms of spend in the next 10 years, because if you don't create that, then you lose people.
Got it. Aditya, you had your hand raised for a bit.
Yeah, I have a couple of points. First,
Yes.
I wanted to second Shweta's point on AI moderation. So a couple of days back, I had written about this, that no, we have AI moderating, AI answering, and then AI also creating content. It is an endless loop of AI testing among AI and then trying to feed it to consumer. But this use case is amazing, right? So what I wanted to give this as an example was that we have in our entire research ecosystem a lot of gaps when it comes to a lot of gaps in how we conduct research, right? There are a lot of challenges sometimes, and this never struck me before writing that yes, at 12 o'clock at night, if someone is free and I still want to complete the sample size I actually aimed to complete, this is such a great use case, and no one ever pitched me like this. I have had 10 pitches from people, and I've never got this kind of a pitch that you can also do it at 12 o'clock at night when people are actually free and you get genuine feedback from them. So that's an amazing use case, and that's one thing which I really wanted to call out. I think when it comes to new tech, there's a lot of innovation happening, but how you pitch it to people like us or in the industry based on what it will solve for in the entire research process becomes very important.
Yes.
uh, an example here would be, say, we use Convosight, and there are a lot of social listening tools out there. There's no supply gap there, but when it comes to the software, and like initially, obviously, we were also evaluating multiple. When we started seeing usage and we saw people using it for very interesting use cases, and Honasa as a like house of brands does a lot of social media content, influencer content, and it made our job so much easier to analyze what is happening in the world in terms of category, what kind of content is firing, what are the metrics we should look at, how do we arrive at a hook, story arc, CTA, etc. So that became easy, and that was honestly never thought of as a challenge, because everyone thought that tools are there but time is not there right now,
Yeah.
because the volume of content has multiplied. No
Yeah.
one has the time to analyze like 1000 videos every day, and tools like these become very important, and tools like these enabled by AI become like far more superior in basically answering or solving these problems.
So Aditya, as I hear you and everyone speak, I figure that there's a lot of information out there, right? There's a lot of real time information that's hitting you from everywhere. I
Hmm.
just want to understand from you. I mean, is this really an advantage, or is it just real time noise that's coming to you from everywhere? Because there's so much stuff there that's coming at you. Wondering if it's just noise, if most of it is just noise.
Should I answer?
Anybody can go, but yeah, happy to have you answer.
Uh, I think it's both advantage and disadvantage. And I think Tamanna gave an example of Google Maps earlier. And then I was like, if you actually go out there on the road and you use four apps for it, you will have to trust one data source. So while there are multiple data sources, which one to trust for which direction or which route is something that you have to take a call on, and hence it's an advantage because now you have options. It's a disadvantage because you have to choose, which is something which our consumer is doing every day. So I don't think it's a challenge which can't be basically solved for. And I mean, that's one way of looking at it, is what I'll tell you. There are 100 sunscreens in the market, and the consumer has to choose a Dermaco. So they made the choice based on multiple parameters, and hence it becomes an advantage in some cases and disadvantage in some cases.
Yeah, let me bring Tamanna here at this point in time. What's your view, Tamanna?
So I think the signal to noise is very small.
Yes.
It's and I'm specifically, so there's two things. I don't think it's an advantage or disadvantage. I think we have to accept reality. There's every data point is a consumer interaction, right? There's something in there. So I think we have to come to terms with it and then realize, like, and figure out, like Aditya said, what should claim data be used for, what should social data be used for. But that's just the nature of, like, every data. It's not a synthetic data point, it's a real data point, it's a real consumer. So that's one, right? We have to embrace it. The sooner we do, the better. uh, the second is the signal to noise. And when we look at social data, like I said earlier, there's trillions of data points, interactions, posts, comments, everything's in there. And there has to be a method to get the right signal in and analyze it. And that's where also, all of the ranking, relevance, AI becomes really important. We have this really interesting concept, which we started when we started building, which is called movers and shakers. Like, we realize there's no way you can scrape the entire social, right? So when we started looking at channels and data and behaviors, we saw that there's 10 to 15% creators or influencers who really control 80% of the relevant reach. So if for a market, for a category, if we're able to first off just ingest that, right, look at these movers and shakers, because these movers and shakers are creating demand awareness, right? They are the ones that are educating consumers. So it's very important to get that. Even within that, then how to get to the right level of data and signals, sort of, to analyze. uh, that's sort of like, it's really important. And I wanted to add one point earlier to what Shaveta said. I think really good answer, Shaveta, on overall AI, right? Things that we are all grappling with, we love, we don't love. And hallucination is real because AI is probabilistic, it's not deterministic. So us at Convotrack, the next sort of, for us, prompting is the product, right? We use multiple LLMs, there's lots of AI used even in the last mile, Shaveta. So that I wanted to add that, right? Even in the final analysis, but which means a lot of responsibility on us. There can be no hallucination, there's eval loops, but there are things we are bringing out of AI because they need to be deterministic, right?
Yeah.
So it's because AI is still pattern matching and probabilistic. So I wanted to say that. And I don't know if I can share my screen for a second, but since Aditya was talking about us, I was telling him earlier, I just pulled out a list of 60, questions, important questions. But if I could just flash it for 20 seconds, maybe it's very, it might be interesting for everyone to see the kind of questions you can just ask and get answers, and how sort of bang on it is. But
Maybe
I
if you can
don't,
put a screenshot somewhere in the chat, perhaps.
I'll do that.
Thanks for bringing in Shweta and AI into this debate, because my next question is to you, Shweta. Do you really think we are using AI as a shortcut? Do we really think, or just to avoid thinking deeply about the consumer, does this become like a quick fix? Um, I mean, are we truly? I mean, this is a question to everyone. Do we really think we are closer to consumers than ever before? I mean, I know we're sitting on top of a lot of information, but do we really get the sense that, we've gotten closer to them, or do we think we've gotten a little further away from them?
My answer to that is both. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can be closer. Tech has made it possible. But how many times have brand managers got out in the last 1 month and met consumers? We need to
Yeah.
make time, right? Tech can make it possible to meet your consumers, have a 20-minute chat, which I call as espresso,
Yeah.
every Friday. Have we done that, right? Can that be done? Can tech achieve it? Can research agencies achieve it? Of course, they can achieve it for you. But we need to make the time, right? So it is the real conversations, Anjana, that will make the difference. It's not about research projects. It's really about those real conversations that really happen. AI again is being adopted, and I kind of see those patterns when I offer my platform on how AI gets used, and it gets used in different ways. My simple answer to that would be that if you're going to use AI, just to summarize and not think, which is what it has freed up for you, then
Yes.
we are moving our role from being operations managers to formatters, right? I mean, we're just doing formatting of the presentation if you're not going to think on it, right? If the idea, what Tamanna also spoke about, the idea is really prompting. The idea is double clicking. It's the questions we ask, and the and just one attribute that actually differentiates a great researcher from another is curiosity. If we lose curiosity, then AI ho, yeah, manual ho, doesn't matter really.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that, Shweta. Very, very useful perspective there. Okay, in the interest of time, Jeet, Sandeep, I know you have stuff to say, but we are running short of time. So I'm going to do a quick rapid fire round with you. Okay, I want your answer in a word or two and quickly. And let's go with Jeet first, and then I'll call out the name, and the next person can answer. But if you were building an insight function for a startup today, what is that one thing that you would stop doing immediately?
Uh, I think the first thing to do definitely would be to unlearn a lot of the the standard ways of working that you would have had in a organization that is so process oriented, and try to understand the challenges of the stakeholders that you're working with,
Yep.
that you will be working with. I think that is one key learning for us.
Got it. Sandeep, you go next.
Sure.
Rapid fire. What is the one thing that you would stop doing?
Sorry.
If you're building an insights function for a startup today, what's the one thing you would stop doing immediately?
Stop doing hiring people.
Hiring people. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, we move on to Aditya.
I think this is something which I would definitely stop doing. I'll stop being a support function and start being more of a core business driving function. It becomes even more important in a smaller setup,
Great.
because the actions you have, or the impact or the insights you give, have a direct correlation to business outcome, and you can see it. I've seen it in the last 2 years, that the insights we shared, the kind of work we have done, where I can like probably point it in market key, this product is something that we did this piece on, and it's so heartwarming to see that something which in a larger setup, typically it takes time, and hence I'm not saying you can't see the results, but yes, it takes more time, and hence you the reward is far bigger in a smaller setup, because you're able to see immediate outcome there.
Got it. Shweta? Sorry, you're on mute.
I would stop using research as a checkpoint, okay, in the tick mark, okay, or tick box, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be just a go, no go. It
Yeah.
should be a lot more immersive and getting closer to consumers. And that's where I think the research function needs to just, take it to the next level and
Got
evolve.
it.
Yeah.
Tamanna?
I think one is what Aditya said, that not have research as a support function. The other is, I think, very important to research something which is already a decision, like on someone's calendar, right? Not just nice to know. A lot of times there's just, right? So I think focus on the key things which will drive business. Research is to drive business growth. That's it. Not just good to know, or not just like a step.
Understood. Thank you for that. Okay, so my next question is really to understand. I'm going to merge two questions to extract the most out of this panel since we're running short of time. I'd like all of us to spend a minute each to figure what the inciting challenges today are with regard to a startup, right? Specific inciting challenges to startups. The other question that I want to bring in with this is that if you were to create an insight capability that is truly defensible in the next 2 years, what would that be? So if you can answer both questions for me, one after the other, then I think we'll be able to make the most of this panel discussion for the audiences.
Can you repeat the second question?
We can start with Tamanna.
So the first was, what is the insight challenge to startups?
Yes. What is the inciting challenge that is very specific to startups?
So I think it's just, like how Jeet said earlier, early on, like it's easy to do the 0 to 1, maybe 1 to 10, even 10 to 100 now, just because that we have so much faster and better access to consumers, right? So it's easy to grow without even having an insight function. So I think just that, and we're always competing for resources, right? So I think that is a challenge, on how to build an insights function where you can allocate resources and still add value and in fact continue to grow. And what was the second question?
What will differentiate a truly defensible insights capability over the next 2 years?
I think just it's very simple, nothing fancy, but we really need to embrace the reality around us. The biggest change is not in AI. The biggest change is how consumers are behaving, right? So let's just, whether we have 30 years, 50 years, 2 years experience, let's just embrace it and say that, let's build everything that we're building around our consumers. That's it. Let's not just have Herculean, like whatever, like dinosaur ways of doing research. It's a little provocative, but I just want to say that out loud.
Okay, Shweta.
Okay, so my first point around startups would be that they need to test early. I mean, just going on gut might, it was fancy to say fail fast, but we know it doesn't exist, right? I mean, that's not the path to go down. You have to test early, and that's where research really comes in, consumer view comes in. You have to get some inputs to your gut and intuitive feeling that this will work, right? So product market fit is very, very critical. The second thing that I would call out is refresh frameworks. IDA doesn't work, right? The world has changed. The data points have changed, right? We have seen behavioral sciences application in social sector beautifully has kind of gone in. But when it comes to commercial sector or corporate brands, as we call it, we're limited to tools, tech tools like facial coding, eye tracking, etc. That's not just behavioral sciences. It has to go deeper. We need to learn. We need to talk about how consumers truly make decisions by studying newer sciences, studying and embedding that. So refreshing your frameworks, which were developed in 90s and are still existing, is something that I would provoke everybody to actually relook at.
Got it. Thank you for that, Jeet.
Yeah, so to quickly mention that, I think the larger thing about startups is the agility and the pace of it, right? So delivering quick insights that are also, sharp and very crisp way so that you can actually drive actionably rather than, them thinking, let's not do research at all because I can't afford to wait that long. That
Yes.
is one. And I think the second one is what is the scary predicament for me particularly is the access to AI, right? And I think if that is replacing the standard and conventional ways of research for any place, any team in the org, I think that is a scary predicament. It cannot replace conventional research, and it has always needs to be an enabler, to delivering insights or finding the right answers. So I think that is going to be one big challenge going forward as well.
Got it. Sandeep?
So inciting challenge with a startup has one of the bigger ones is where you do not have very articulate CEOs or the promoters because they not come from a Unilever Mondelez background, so they don't really talk research the way you will expect them to talk. But it's also an advantage because then you can pick up what is the real challenge and work towards it, which can lead to the second question, which is saying, uh, are you talking bottom line, or are you still saying your AI was not very high, so this ad shouldn't go anything, or are you saying if you do this campaign this way, we will sell 20% more? Because that's something which most of the founders and promoters and the guys of VCs love to hear, rather than talking about get out of market research, talk brand, talk the bottom line, top line, and you would have an audience.
Got it. All right. So at this stage, I think we have a couple of interesting questions from the audience. So that's why I was looking at the phone, Sandeep, in case you were wondering. All right. So this question is actually to Shweta and Tamanna. How does one draw a line between hallucinations and realities? Is it just a researcher's experience? Would it again be not biased? That's a question I think best answered by the two of you. If you're saying AI is non-biased and with all the hallucination and all of it, how do you how do you make sense of it?
I can take that question first if you want.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do an input-output system, right, there is no way to check, right? So if the data goes in, summary comes out, there's absolutely no way to check whether AI has gotten it right or wrong, right? But if you create a workflow system where you are getting the raw data, you have the source links to back check whether what AI is deriving and where is it deriving from. All of that gets sorted, because then the control is in researcher's hand rather than in the AI's hand. Again, we play with a lot of stimuli, right? I mean, we rotate stimuli, and we ask similar questions on each of the stimuli. If you use creative solutions, all of that can be broken down. AI gets to interpret only part of the data. Once you start doing some of those things and make it more pristine in terms of how AI is using the data, which is controlled by the researcher, you are in a far accurate space, and that gets built through years. And that is where I speak about purpose-built workflows, which are being built across industries now. So AI cannot be just copy pasted. You can't use generic AI just like that. You need to see how do you apply AI to your use case, your accuracy desires, and how does it give it back to you. That's where I would take it.
Got it. Thank you, Shweta. I think the next question is addressed to Jeet and Aditya. At what level or at what level of readiness is a product launched? Assuming the launch feedback will give feedback for improvisation. Are there any internal protocols for go, no go for launch? More so important for product than concept, as some consumers going to be using the product with price paid.
Yeah, I will, if it's fine, I'll let you go first. Yeah. So I think the larger challenge is establishing what are the absolute action standards that we need to have before the product is launched, right? So from a product readiness perspective, having a very strong proposition check is still something that we do even at a startup. And secondly, conducting extensive and exhaustive user trials to get a detailed feedback and with along with a benchmark competition. If you're not, if your end consumer does not think, especially as a startup, if your end consumer does not think that your product is differentiated, it is not going to win in market. And if they don't feel that delight, it is not going to do well in market, and they are not going to move away from their incumbent, whatever brand that you're using for the last 20 years. So I think that are two absolute must-haves, whether to understand if you are perceived to be differentiated and perceived to be superior.
Yep. Aditya, anything to add to this before we close?
So for us, yes, there are protocols, and some of them are very common to what Jeet mentioned. But we also maintain a community of consumers and influencers, which we regularly go to for very sharp feedback. See, a lot of the categories that we launch products in are not yet fully developed in India, and very few people know even how to like give a proper reaction to some of these products. So you have to understand that someone who has to give feedback on a soap will obviously has been using soap for the last 20 years and hence has like a proper KPI set in that it should give fragrance, etc. But someone who has to give a feedback for a high-end hair curling, hair styling device, which is a less than 1% or less than 0.5% penetration, very few people even use these devices on a daily basis. For that we'll go to specialized users and get their feedback, because that becomes even more like far more valuable than a general consumer telling us what to do. So yeah, there are protocols set in for different kinds of categories we go to. We are first movers in many categories, and hence it becomes very important that we go to such people who are also first users when it comes to adoption of these categories, because the kind of interaction you have with these people is at a very different level than as compared to a user who you are trying to convert from a category, another category to this category. So yeah, there are protocols set in, but we do a proper benchmarking study for most like large penetration, high penetration categories. Right.
Got it. Thank you for that, Aditya. Thanks everyone for joining in on this very very interesting and eye-opening webinar. I think for me, the big uncomfortable idea that's probably emerged today is that we don't have an insights problem. We probably have a thinking problem, right? Because we do have tons of information. We have new tools to understand the consumer, cut the consumer every which way. But probably what's lacking is interpretation and judgment, perhaps, right? And that's really what is what's going to make a difference. And therefore the real risk is not whether AI is going to replace us. It's really about whether we are going to outsource our thinking to it, and therefore not use AI to think deeply about the consumer. So I honestly walk away thinking that the future of this discipline will not be in how we adopt new tools. It's important, but it doesn't really rest only on that. It's really about how we protect the quality of our questions, our curiosity, like somebody said, our originality, that the human mind comes with, our intellectual honesty, etc. Right? So that's really what's going to make the big difference. And on that note, thanks everyone for joining in for the most entertaining and insightful conversation. Many, many thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.